April 9th, 2005. The bearded Washingtonian standing next to me was just 17 years old, and the man he's fighting in just 2 weeks' time was getting his hand raised, making history as the first ever Ultimate Fighter. Mike, we had to jump in the DeLorean for that introduction.
We sure did.
Thanks for being here this evening. Really appreciate you coming in.
It's good to be here. Always good to see you, Joe, outside the gym in your element.
Let's get to the fight. Diego Sanchez. This is a guy who's been doing it for a really long time. He's a trailblazer of the sport. What does it mean to you to be fighting a guy like him?
It means a lot to me. I take pride in winning the Ultimate Fighter, and he's the original Ultimate Fighter. He was the first guy to ever win it, so it's to me it's like a champion versus champion fight. I know he's up there in age, but the guy, he just takes really good care of his body. He's on a 2-fight winning streak, and if you win 1 fight in the UFC, you're good. If you win 2 in a row, you're really good. You're relevant. And I'm really excited for the opportunity to lock horns with a guy like Diego. I think it's going to be a really fun fight.
You were wrestling in high school at the time. Did you watch that first season of The Ultimate Fighter?
I did. I remember being in my parents' basement, and I got a phone call from one of my buddies. He's like, "Hey, you got to turn it to Spike TV. There's this crazy fight going on." And it was actually Forrest. So
it was the Forrest fight?
It was the Forrest fight. And
the other Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah, so then I was like, wow, this is awesome. And they replayed the event right after. So then I watched Diego's fight with Kenny Florian when he won the Ultimate Fighter. Became the very first guy to win it. So, yep, I was in my parents' basement.
Okay.
Yep.
What did you think of Diego, your opponent, then versus the Diego you've seen now?
I think that Diego, as of late, is just much more calculated. I think before he relied on his youth. He had a young chin, you know what I mean? He would just go in there, go straight forward, take shots, take one to give one, and kind of fought with like a certain level of reckless abandonment. I think he's a lot more calculated now, given that he's had a long time in the sport. He's had some losses, and when you get to that certain point at that age, this long in the game, you got to change some things. So I think he's a little more calculated in his approach. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see that run at you, get right in your face, Diego. I wouldn't be surprised if he deviates away from that. Whether he does or doesn't, it really doesn't matter. I'm going to be prepared for either guy.
Sure. You mentioned, all the fights he's had. Which one is your favorite? It's got to be the Clay Guida fight, right?
The Clay Guida fight is definitely up there, but I remember when he fought Martin Kampmann.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't really agree with the decision. I thought Kampmann won, but I just remember Diego's late rally in round 3. And I just remember how busted up his face looked. His face looked like a cantaloupe. It looked like it blew up and was just round with all the swelling and cuts. And I just remember him squeaking out that win, and it was just wild. And just with that being said, I mean, the guy, he's just there to fight from bell to bell, and I feel like to beat him, you really got to put him out. You either got to fight him in a boring point sparring match, which is totally not my style, or you just got to lock horns with him and really push him to his limit. And I'm very prepared to do so.
Is that what you're expecting? That it's going to be maybe a barn burner?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to take any backward steps. I give the guy all the credit in the world. I'm not saying this to slander the guy or speak poorly of him, but I think that there is an easy way to beat Diego if you kind of use your footwork and point spar him and kind of play punch and kick and run with the guy. I think you can really run away with decisions. I've seen it happen to him before. That's just not my style, though. That's why I'm on the pay-per-view portion of the card, just because I'm not a point sparring guy. I like to come at you. I want to fight, and I feel like if I push the pace on this guy, I feel like I could really get the job done before the 3 rounds comes to an end.
He's been involved in more Fight of the Year bouts than any other UFC fighter ever. You think that you and him, you could get another one for him and one for yourself?
Here's the thing with that is I've won a few Fight of the Nights myself. Never even came close to a Fight of the Year, but I never want those things to happen, because then that means you want to be in a fight where you're losing at some point. For me, I'd rather go pitch a shutout. You know what? But if it becomes a war, I'm ready for it. I mean, I've been tailor-made for fights like that my whole career. I've been in tough fights. I've fought tough guys. If it's a war, if it's a Fight of the Year contender, I'll take it. Not what I'm aiming for, though. I'm aiming to go pitch a shutout and come back home. And more than anything, I want to be healthy so I can roll into another one sooner than later. I had a little shoulder procedure this last March that kind of set me back a little bit. So I'm trying to not make it a war, pitch a shutout, roll into one, maybe fall or something. So we'll see what happens.
Cool. Let's go back to December when you fought Carlos Condit, your welterweight debut. Another, legend of the sport, another guy that you grew up watching when you were younger and really getting into the sport of mixed martial arts. That was your welterweight debut. We know you had your struggles, eventually not able to make 155 for the first time ever in your career. What was it like actually fighting at 170 pounds?
That night specifically, I have no shame admitting how nervous I was. I had never lost back-to-back fights in my life. I'd never missed weight in my life. and I'm going into total foreign territory in a new weight class. So I was really out of my comfort zone, but all the meanwhile knowing like, man, I feel really good. Like I just feel good that I'm not depleting myself through the week process. I'm enjoying fight week. It was Christmas, so I was with my family. I was with my girlfriend. Had my whole team there. I'm like, it's weird that I'm physically enjoying this. Mentally, I was kind of having some struggles. That's just the nature of the beast that this sport brings, those types of things. But man, it felt like I just got this huge weight off my shoulders to go out, get a win, new weight class. This is my home. This is my weight class. I'm not changing weight classes. This is where I will end my career. And then to beat a guy like Carlos.
A former champ.
Former champion, a guy that I still have his shirts at home, his Sinister walkout shirt from back in the WEC days. I still have this shirt at home. So I got a huge weight lifted off my shoulders, and it's just weird to feel this good going into a fight. Now I'm in the winning column.
Yep.
No stress, well prepared, ready to go. Diego Sanchez, former title challenger. Let's go.
Yeah. And talk me through that finish. What was that, like a one-armed Kimura? I don't know if I've ever seen someone get a finish like that in the UFC. Walk me through that.
So I like to do a lot of wrist trapping in my training. I like to wrist ride guys, kind of something I got from wrestling. And I just remember taking him down and I put 2 hands on his arm. I like the Kimura grip a lot. I put 2 hands on his arm, and I originally was going to hand the arm off and reach underneath him and kind of do like a reverse hammerlock thing.
Okay.
When I let it go, I was like, oh, I'm going to go for this thing. Like, I think I got it. And so I just stretched him out, and yeah, that was wild, man. I just, I had a good feeling I could submit Carlos. I just didn't think it would be like that. And to get a win like that in that fashion over that guy who I have a ton of respect for, it was totally surreal. I mean, that's why I was like, I couldn't celebrate. I got done with the fight and I was like, I don't know what to do with my hands right now. This is
doing this thing.
This is wild. So man, it was really cool. It was surreal, and it just. I feel like I'm myself again. I feel like I'm me. I feel like I'm that young 24-year-old kid coming off The Ultimate Fighter. I'm like rejuvenated. I feel like I just jumped in the DeLorean again. Went back in time. Here I am.
Awesome.
Yes, sir.
One more question. This is the big one. All right.
Yeah.
Are there going to be any shirts in the future that say "Don't talk about my mom"?
My mom made me one she made me one for my birthday one year, my 30th birthday. Awesome gift. But I have this kind of funny idea that I've always thought of for a shirt, and having a Sasquatch pushing a hand truck, and having it have a stack of boxes, and each box says "Don't talk about my mom."
That's good. I'd buy it.
Thinking about it.
That is awesome. Mike, thank you so much
Yes,
for coming in. It's UFC 239 going down in Las Vegas, Nevada, July 6th. Mike Chiesa taking on Diego Sanchez, 175 pounds, and you are starting out the night on pay-per-view, correct?
Yep, opening up the pay-per-view, so tune in. Should be a good time. And hey, Mom.
All right, Mike, thanks for coming in.
Good to see you, man.
Yep, you too.
Yep.
All right, guys, back over to you.